this is Sabina at Cross Keys Crafts. I have literally just shoved all my crafts to the side here because I was in the middle of actually tidying my desk, because I just watched a video by Jennifer Maguire in which her daughter used some fruity stencils to create some lovely cards, and that immediately gave me the ideas to create a card with lemons, but not with stencils, but just with die cuts created from nesting dies. So I've got 3 sizes. I only own these dies here that have got the stitched edge, but it doesn't really matter. It also doesn't really matter how close or far they are from each other, but I just use these, you know, the next one down. So there's 3 of them. This is the biggest one I have here. Let me just measure. That's just 3 3/4 wide. So this is all I own, but it doesn't really matter. And I have cut 3 circles from 3 colours of cardstock. I try to get different yellows in. Again, it doesn't matter which one's brighter or darker. Also, you could create limes or oranges. It's really up to you. And I want to show you how you basically create the look of the lemon on the inside with this piece. There are 2 options. I had a trial run because the reason was I wanted to put some texture to the segments of the lemon, and I thought, how do I do that? Obviously in the video they just used some paint on it, but I didn't want to do that, and I thought I can use an embossing folder. And I found this one here, which has got sort of a floral pattern. The other ones I thought that would work is this one here. I showed you that recently when I did the turtle. And I also purchased this one recently, which is a honeycomb one. I think any pattern would work that is not too directional, because I want it obviously on the circle. So I will find a spot where I can have that sort of going out from there, from the middle there, from the center. I hope this makes sense why I chose this one. So now I already put a piece of cardstock through, because my original idea was to have, this is now a shiny piece of cardstock, but I had a matte piece of cardstock and I used my Versa Magic Cloud White to ink it up on the top, because I wanted, you know, like the veins in the segments to show. And it is quite nice, but it is a bit too subtle for my taste. So all I did was run it through. Next time I would probably dampen it a bit or mist it a bit from the back. And then all I did was just go over it just with my ink pad upside down and would just swipe over it. That's it. It's quite subtle, it's quite nice. But then I thought I could create this in a different way, and I want to show you that. This cardstock I have here has got a white core. I've used it in an Easter card before in one of the videos, and the technique that I want to show you works with these pieces of cardstock that have got a white core. So first of all, I want to mist it on the back. So I'm just spritzing this a little bit because I don't want this to crack, and I'm placing it in the embossing folder so that the smaller veins on the top, I just had to test it there, and I want to place it on one of those flowers, as I said, so that the flower is in the center. And this is actually quite easy to do because these flower centers are actually quite on the outside there. So I'm just quickly putting this through my die cutting machine. So we'll just pop this here on the side. I'm not used to handling this from the side, so I have to move it around a little bit. Sorry if the camera wobbles. Just putting this away. So, and what I can do now is I have got an emery, what's it called, an emery board or a nail file here, and you can already see the white core is coming through, and I can enhance this by just going over this and taking the yellow off. You can do this with sandpaper as well. I'm just realising though I wanted this to come off, so sorry about that. I have to put it through again because this I want to take the thinner lines off. So sorry, I have to cut another piece, show it through again, and then I'll show you how I take this off, and I will zoom in as well for that. So I've cut another piece now. I've got it as I wanted it, and now, as I said, I'm just taking the top here off, and this will expose the white core. Make sure you keep it flat. It's a bit tricky because this does want to move a little bit, so I'm making sure I'm not catching it. It's actually easier if I move it in one direction. In the center as well. So it depends on how coarse your nail file is, how much you take off. I'll give that a little brush afterwards, but now you can see this actually looks really nice now with the white, and is much better than this here. But it's really up to you what you would like to achieve. So in a moment I'm showing you how to cut the pieces. So I've brushed off any excess here with an old makeup brush that I keep for that purpose, and now I need to cut this into 8 segments, and I find it easier to do this from the back, and the way that my design works, this is very easy for me to do. So I'm cutting this in half. I'm sort of in the middle centered, so it should work out okay. So I'm just going around this way. Obviously you could measure this all and mark it with a pencil on the top, but I'm not too fussed. Just checking this here, so it doesn't really matter as long as they are fairly even. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to round all the corners off. So I'm having a generous round at the front because I want to have a bit of space in the center, and I'm going to have the corners rounded. I'm using my round nail scissors for these because I find that's the easiest way to do it. I don't think a corner rounder would work because I don't have a 90-degree angle. So all I'm doing is just going around like this. As I said, just going around and cutting this off. So you can see here from the residue how much, oh sorry about that, how much I actually have cut off. I might, when I align them in, I might cut some more off in the front, but this is all I need to do at the moment, and I'm going to do this with all the 8 pieces. Before I stick the segments on, I want to put the middle-sized circle onto the large one. I'm gluing it down with my collal glue, and I'm leaving it to dry, and I want to cut this in half because I want to have 2 halves for the card base. I want to play around with the different sort of different angles of the lemon. I don't want this as a full slice of lemon. So I tried to measure mine. I eyeballed it a bit, cut it apart with a guillotine, and it's actually perfect. So I normally can trust my eyes, but if you're unsure about it, just mark it in the back, just measure it properly. Mine was a sort of in-between size, so as I said, I just eyeballed it. So I now want to arrange the segments here, but I don't want to have this sort of half of the segments on this side, half of the segments on the other side. I think I will cut 2 of these apart and have half of either of them on the segments, so that I basically cut the slice in the middle. I think this will look more natural. I'm contemplating whether I want to continue the pattern of the original embossing folder, but I think I won't bother about that. So I just use 2 of these, cut these apart, and I will now glue these down like this. That one going on the other side. I'm making sure though that the distance from the edge here, from the middle circle, is the same all the way around, and I'm just testing on the other side that I'm happy with the gap this would leave in the middle, and I think that will be fine. So just showing you how I'm going to align these before I glue them off off screen. So I will just pop these down here, then again having the same distance here and there, and I think that would look really nice and natural. So again, I will glue them down with my collal glue. I'm contemplating whether I want to cut this into quarters, but I'll have a look once I've got my card base ready how I want these on the card base. So I actually had miscounted these, so I need to put one in the middle and two on either side, but it wasn't a problem when I first glued it down, because with the collal glue you can just peel it off again. I used my glue eraser to get rid of any residue glue, and yes, if you look very close you can still see that I had glue there before, but I think it's fine as it is now. So I've glued these down, but I have played around a little bit. I've got my sentiment here. This is from this Visible Image stamp set, Keep Your Gin Up, and I'm using the, where is it? When Life Gives You Lemons, obviously that matches the theme, Open the Gin. And I have put this on my acrylic block, so I could now play around with it and see where I would like to stamp that. And at first I thought in the middle, but the G gets in the way a little bit here, so I thought if I stamp this on the side, I can then have one lemon wedge there, and then I thought maybe come in with a 2/4 at the top. I don't want to have it the same size. I don't even want to open the lemon like that. I think that would look funny. So I think what I do is I just stamp this down here. Oh, by the way, this is a top folding card. It's 4 inches wide and just under 6 inches long, because I cut this from an A4 piece of cardstock. So, oh, and one thing I forgot to mention here, that's why I've still got these bits here. I had to cut 2 wedges down a little bit to create a gap. It's not perfect, so you might want to cut these actually much slimmer than they were originally to have more gaps in between, but I'm not too fussed about this. So all I'm going to do now is to cut one of these in half. Have a look which one I'm keeping. Keeping this as a full one, and then I'm just cutting this in half, and I think I'll just do it on the back and let it be random rather than checking where the wedge is on the other side. There we go. So, and I'm going to stamp this just with my Versa ink, and yeah, and then I'm going to glue these down and I'm going to show you the finished card. I decided to stamp my sentiment in black, but to heat emboss it with the clear embossing powder, because I thought the shine would go nicely with this shiny cardstock here. And then I set these wedges down here, but I thought it was still a bit bare, especially here. And at first I thought whether I should introduce some leaves, but that would mean introducing a new colour, and I didn't really want this. So in my stash of embellishments, I found these little yellow beads. So I'm going to glue these down now, again off camera, and then I'll show you the finished card. Yeah, I'm really pleased with this. I think this looks really nice, and I like the summery look of this. The yellows are really, really lovely, and yeah, very cheerful. So also a very quick make. If you didn't want to use the embossing folder there and go through the hassle of taking that off, you could use some patterned cardstock, I suppose, if you had a yellow background. I think that would look nice as well, and play around. I would still keep the background colours here plain, but have a patterned yellow cardstock. I think that would be really nice as well. So very easy to make. Don't need any specialty dies except for the nesting dies. And yeah, I think another quick card that is quite effective. And yeah, if you like this card, you might want to give me a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more of what I'm creating, I usually post on Sundays and Wednesdays. You might want to subscribe to my channel. I'd be very happy about that. And I'll see you soon with another video.